Hello, my name is Milton Machuca Galvez, SPLAX librarian at KU Libraries. I apologize for not being able to present for my February conference chair out presentation today, as I am teaching at the CIC at the same time. Thank you for your understanding. About 2 months ago, I attended the Feria Internacional del Libro de Guadalajara 2025 for the second time. This return was not simply a revisiting of the large editorial showcase that characterizes the field, but rather an opportunity to observe it from a different perspective, paying closer attention to audiences, reading practices, and to those less visible spaces where the meaning of the book and of cultural mediation is also constructed. Barcelona was the guest of honor. The Catalan capital arrived in the Perla Tapatía under the motto Vendrán las flores, inspired by a fragment of the short narrative prose of Mercè Rodoreda, one of the most influential figures of 20th century Catalan literature, whose work continues to enjoy international relevance. In this way, the motto functioned not only as a metaphor but also as a promise of memory, language, and affect. The flowers also established a symbolic bridge with Guadalajara, also known as the City of the Roses, and evoked the celebration of Saint Jordi and the Dragon, the Day of the Book, and the Rose in Catalonia. For US librarians dedicated to acquisitions and collection development with an emphasis on Latin America, the field offers a range of incentives that facilitate participation through the Guadalajara International Book Fair ALA Field Free Pass program, a program coordinated with the American Library Association. This initiative benefits U.S. librarians working across different sectors, including academic, public, and specialized libraries, by supporting registration fees, lodging, and other related expenses. These forms of support are essential to ensuring a diverse and active professional presence in a key space for editorial exchange and the strengthening of international library networks. In my case, attending the field with support from the Free Pass program has had a positive and direct impact on my work. Being present at the field allows me to identify relevant materials, engage in dialogue with editorial representatives, and strengthen ties with cultural institutions and public organizations. It also provides a valuable opportunity to exchange experiences and perspective with colleagues from other institutions. 2 weeks prior to the film, the LAA organizes a pre-film orientation webinar led by Adán Griego, curator of Latin American, Mexican American, and Iberian collections at Stanford University, which contributes to a more informed and strategic preparation for attending the fair. Thus, the film has become a strategic space for the work of Latin Americanist librarianship, closely aligned with Salam's goals of promoting access, visibility, and the circulation of Latin American editorial production in libraries across the United States. As always, the fair offers multiple ways of navigating it. The most immediate and accessible approach is simply to walk through the venue and explore the editorial offerings in both the national and international areas. This initial walkthrough makes it possible to take the general pulse of the fair, identify trends, and appreciate the contrast between large publishing houses and smaller projects that, while often operating at the margins, play an essential role in enriching the independent publishing ecosystem. For the more experienced librarian, however, visiting the fair tends to involve a more directed and strategic itinerary, exploring specific corridors, returning to familiar aisles, and stopping at previously identified displays are part of a deliberate practice oriented toward collection development. This mode of navigation makes it possible to engage more deeply with specialized catalogs, hold informal conversation with publishers and distributors, and evaluate materials that respond to specific academic, regional, and thematic needs. The fair's program is so extensive that it is impossible to cover it in its entirety. Faced with such abundance, the most effective approach is to pause, program in hand, and select those activities that are most compelling and that align with individual and professional needs. Another complementary strategy involves scheduling advanced meetings with specific booksellers or publishers, many of whom contact their clients electronically to coordinate visits to their sales booth within the venue. This practice helps optimize limited time and facilitates more focused and productive exchanges. Books, authors, and readers were once again the central protagonists of the fair. Each day, thousands of people attended presentations and book signings. One particularly revealing scene was the long line of teenagers who came to the presentation of El Corazón del Rey and waited with visible enthusiasm to meet its author. Karin Bernal Lobo, a Colombian romance and fantasy novelist writing primarily for young adult and new adult audiences. Born in Valledupar in 1998, Bernal Lobo began her literary career on the Wattpad platform in 2019. Her Saga del Rey, published by Editorial Planeta and now a major editorial phenomenon in Latin America, consists of El Perfume del Rey, Las Cadenas del Rey, and El Corazón del Rey, the novel that completes the trilogy. Beyond its commercial success, what was especially striking was the intensity of the bond the author had cultivated with her young readers. Scenes such as these invite reflection on the role of book fairs as spaces of cultural mediation where new reading practices take shape and relationships among author, publishers, and young audiences are strengthened. For librarians and specialists in Latin American studies, the field is not only a site of acquisition but also a privileged observatory of contemporary dynamics in reading editorial circulation and the formation of reading communities in Latin America. Food is available both inside and outside the venue, with a wide, diverse, and affordable range of options suited to different tastes and budgets. Although this may seem like a trivial detail, such pauses contribute in concrete ways to the overall experience of the fair. Taking time to eat, rest, and step away from the intense rhythm of aisles and activities allows one to return to the day with greater clarity and focus. In the end, a pause never hurts. I returned to Kansas with a significant shipment of books. Among them were generous donations from the Secretaría de Cultura del Estado de Querétaro, the Instituto Nacional Electoral de México, the Heinrich Böll Foundation, and the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, which even included a small volume of Rosa Luxemburg's love letters. Although the publications of both foundations are available electronically, the presence of physical copies adds a material and archival dimension that remains highly relevant for research. These materials engage directly with our academic collections and with the research interests of our patrons. I also acquired fanzines and books specifically intended for the Spencer Research Library collections, strengthening areas that often fall outside major commercial circuits, yet are fundamental for documenting contemporary voices, alternatives, editorial practices, and emerging cultural expressions. Taken together, this second visit to the Feria Internacional del Libro de Guadalajara confirmed that the field is far more than an editorial showcase. For librarianship, it represents a space where acquisition, observation, cultural mediation, and professional network building converge. Viewing the fair from this perspective makes it possible to recognize its value, not only in terms of books and authors, but also as a dynamic environment that informs, enriches, and gives meaning to contemporary practices of collection development in Latin American studies. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, please contact me. Thank you.